In the shadow of the mighty mountains of Sparta, a legend was born. A man who would defy the greatest empire the world had ever seen. Leonidas, king of Sparta, and the 300 warriors who stood with him would become a timeless symbol of courage, sacrifice, and freedom. But behind this immortal tale lies the story of a boy, a prince who was never meant to be king. Leonidas was born around 540 BC, the third son of King Anaxandridas II of Sparta, a ruler from the Agiad dynasty. He was not the heir to the throne. His elder brother Cleomenes was destined to rule, but fate, forged by politics, war, and tragedy, would change everything. In Sparta, life was unlike any other Greek city. It was not a land of poets, orators, or philosophers. It was a nation built for war. Every boy was taken from his family at the age of 7, thrown into the brutal Spartan training system known as the agoge. Even princes were not spared, unless they were first in line to the throne. And so, young Leonidas was shaped by hardship, discipline, and the unbreakable code of Sparta. Sparta was unlike Athens or Thebes. It was not a city of stone walls or grand monuments. It was a collection of villages hardened by tradition, guarded by warriors, and ruled by two kings from rival dynasties, the Agiads and the Eurypontids. Leonidas, born into the Agiad line, grew up in a society where honor meant everything and weakness was despised. At 7 years old, Leonidas entered the agoge. He learned to endure pain, hunger, and exhaustion. He fought barefoot in the cold, trained with wooden spears, and survived with little food, taught to steal when necessary, so long as he was not caught. For in Sparta, being punished was not for failing. It was for failing to be cunning. By the time he reached manhood, Leonidas was not a prince of privilege. He was a warrior forged by the same trials as every Spartan boy. Unlike his brother Cleomenes, who would rise to the throne through politics and intrigue, Leonidas earned respect through discipline, endurance, and strength. And though he was the third son, fate would place the crown upon his head. When King Cleomenes died under mysterious circumstances, Sparta was left in turmoil. Leonidas, once the overlooked son, rose to claim the throne in 489 BC. His marriage to Gorgo, Cleomenes' daughter, was not only a union of blood, but also a union of power. Together, they would face the greatest threat Greece had ever known, the Empire of Persia. The Persian Empire, forged by Cyrus the Great and ruled by Darius I, stretched from Egypt to India. It was a machine of conquest, fueled by wealth and ruled through fear and tribute. To many Greeks, it seemed unstoppable. But for Leonidas, surrender was never an option. When Persian envoys demanded submission, Leonidas' response was cold and unyielding. Sparta would not bow. And so, when Xerxes prepared his vast army to invade Greece, Leonidas prepared for destiny. The world would soon know his name, not just as king, but as legend. In 490 BC, Persia struck the Greek world at Marathon. Against all odds, Athenian hoplites defeated the invaders. But 10 years later, Xerxes, son of Darius, returned with a force unlike anything the world had ever seen. By land and by sea, the Persian war machine moved west, determined to crush Greece once and for all. The Greek cities were divided. Some wanted to resist, others to surrender. But Sparta, bound by tradition and honor, sent their king Leonidas to hold the narrow pass of Thermopylae. With him marched not just 300 Spartans, but thousands of allies from across Greece. Together they would make their stand where mountains met the sea. The pass of Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, was a bottleneck less than 20 meters wide, a place where numbers counted for little and courage could decide the fate of nations. Here, Leonidas chose to fight. Here, the legend would be born. Xerxes, confident in his overwhelming numbers, ordered his first assault. He sent the Medes, seasoned warriors, to break the Greek line, but the narrow pass worked against them. Wave after wave crashed against the wall of shields and spears. The Spartans, disciplined and relentless, fought in perfect formation. The Persians fell in droves. The ground grew slick with blood. But the Spartans pushed forward, shields locked, spears thrusting with deadly precision. They fought not as men, but as one unstoppable machine. Xerxes grew restless. He sent in his elite, the immortals, 10,000 strong, famed as the pride of Persia. Yet even they could not break through. The Spartans fought with ferocity, their spears shattering, their swords cutting through the finest soldiers of the empire. The second day dawned with renewed fury. Again, Xerxes hurled his armies against the Greeks, and again, the narrow pass turned the tide against him. The Spartans fought with tireless strength, pushing back wave after wave of Persians. But as the sun began to set, fate turned against them. A Greek named Ephialtes approached Xerxes. Bitter and treacherous, he revealed a hidden path through the mountains, the Anapeia Trail, which would allow the Persians to outflank the Greeks. For this betrayal, his name would forever be cursed. That night, Xerxes sent the immortals along the hidden trail. They moved silently under torchlight, climbing the mountain path. The small Greek force guarding it was overwhelmed. The trap was set. At dawn, Leonidas would face not only the Persian front, but also their army descending from the mountains behind. At dawn, Leonidas understood the truth. They had been betrayed. The Persian army now closed in from the front and the rear. Escape was possible, but Leonidas chose another path, a path of sacrifice and eternal glory. He dismissed the allied troops, allowing thousands to escape, but he and his 300 Spartans remained. Alongside them, 700 Thespians and a handful of Thebans chose to stay. Together, they prepared for their final stand. The last day began with ferocious combat. Persian arrows darkened the sky, but the Spartans advanced. Their long spears shattered. They drew their swords. When swords broke, they fought with bare hands, with teeth, with unyielding rage. Leonidas, king of Sparta, fought at the very front. Spears and swords crashed around him. He struck down countless foes, until finally, the mighty king was overwhelmed. Leonidas fell, but not in silence. His warriors roared his name, vowing to fight until the last breath. The Spartans fought like demons to protect his body. They pushed forward, retrieving their fallen king. Around him, the battlefield turned into a storm of blood and iron. Every Spartan knew death was certain, but none retreated. Enraged, Xerxes ordered the impossible. The King of Kings demanded Leonidas's head. The body of the Spartan king was desecrated, beheaded, and displayed. A rare act of Persian cruelty, meant to break Greek morale. But instead, it forged an eternal legend. Though Leonidas and his men were gone, their sacrifice echoed across Greece. News of their defiance spread like fire. For the first time, the Greeks believed the Persians could be resisted. Their courage became the spark that would ignite a united stand. At sea, the Greeks struck back. Themistocles lured the Persian fleet into the narrow straits of Salamis. There, Greek triremes rammed and shattered the massive Persian navy. The impossible had happened. The gods themselves seemed to fight alongside Greece. Months later, on the plains of Plataea, Greek hoplites stood shoulder to shoulder. This time, they outnumbered the Persians. Steel clashed, shields locked, and Persian power crumbled. The dream of conquest was shattered. Greece was free. Years later, a stone lion was raised at Thermopylae, where Leonidas and his warriors fell. An inscription read, "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here we lie, obedient to their laws." It was not just a tombstone. It was a message to eternity. In Sparta, Leonidas was honored with yearly festivals known as the Leonidia. Citizens gathered to remember not just a king, but the embodiment of courage. Leonidas was no longer only a man. He had become a symbol of sacrifice, discipline, and unyielding freedom. Through the centuries, artists, poets, and generals invoked his name. From Renaissance Italy to Napoleon's France, Leonidas was remembered. For some, a defender of freedom. For others, a tyrant of a slave society. But in every age, he remained the warrior who chose death over surrender. Today, Leonidas remains more than a figure of the past. He is a paradox, a king who ruled a militarized, rigid society, yet also a timeless icon of courage and resistance against overwhelming odds. His stand at Thermopylae continues to inspire soldiers, leaders, and ordinary people across the world. Was Leonidas a tyrant who defended a society built on slavery? or a hero who gave everything for freedom? History leaves the question open, but one truth endures. At Thermopylae, Leonidas and his men proved that courage can echo louder than any empire. If you found Leonidas' story as inspiring as we did, don't let it end here. Comment below. Do you see him as a tyrant or as a timeless hero? Your thoughts matter, just as voices echoed through history. And if you want more journeys into the hidden chapters of the past, hit the like button, share this video, and join us by subscribing. Because here, every battle, every legend, every forgotten name is brought back to life.